Well, welcome back to the Cybrary Podcast, everybody. Today, I'm excited to extend an invitation to Cindy Jones, who we have on today. Cindy is the Senior Product Security Specialist for Thermo Fisher Scientific and is also the President of the Board of Directors for BSides Las Vegas. I was fortunate enough to meet you at ShmooCon, or I guess more LobbyCon, earlier this year. But thank you for being on the show, Cindy.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. We kind of said that, we met at ShmooCon or LobbyCon, really, which if nobody's been, if they have it next year, I highly recommend going. It's just a great set of people and kind of everybody just being together. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think we were in the middle of what we were calling our Stitch and Bitch in the bar there. And we had coloring books. We had people who were doing needlepoint. It was a lot of fun. It was I was using the coloring book because sometimes you just need to decompress and do some coloring. So
yeah, I totally understand. I think you guys were coloring and stitching. There was a game show going on behind us.
Oh, yeah, game show behind us. That was pretty awesome. It was pretty cool.
People going around handing out stickers and stuff. It was really crazy. It was a great time. Yeah, I highly suggest for anybody who is in the area, hopefully if they we're able to have it again next year. But yeah, Cindy, we talked a little bit before, but I wanted to kind of go, how did you get into kind of IT in the cybersecurity field and eventually move your way up to being the president of one of a pretty large conference that takes place every year?
So it's kind of a strange story. I was a psych major in college. I had great dreams of going into social services and basically opening up a private adoption agency and doing clinical psychology as part of that. And I took a course that just led me to, it had me reevaluate. It was an abnormal psych course, and it just had me reevaluating whether or not I really wanted to stick in the psychology field. So I took a break. I got a temp job, as people sometimes will do, and I got placed at a computer peripheral company. This is back in the day when, oh my gosh, 486s came with sound cards not on the motherboard. Pre-Pentium time. Wow, I'm old. But we went ahead, and so what the computer peripheral company did, they sold sound cards and CD-ROM drives and DVD drives, eventually, modems and things like that. I ended in there just I'd always been on BBSs and tinkered with things, and played in the cyber world, I guess you could call it. But I got in there and I was doing data entry and I was losing my mind. So I was so bored. It was just names, addresses, model numbers was not my jam. So they actually created a position for me. And that lasted about 2 months, and they promoted me because I just had a feel for it from the tech perspective. I was able to work with customers as well because of my psych and my communications background. So that was nice. So I ended up, by the time I left there 3 years later, I was running all of their online services. I was like level 3 support, and I think we had one more tier above us, but it was one guy. But I was running the online services there. And then I went to school, got some certifications and things like that. Ended up running the gamut, doing support, doing network administration, desktop administration, and security just kind of happened. It was interesting. I never knew that, having a routine patching schedule qualified as security work. I never thought about, security education for the users of the environments that I was working in counted as security work. When I was living overseas at that time, working for the DoD school system, and it started dawning on me that I need to check out some things. So I heard about DEF CON, and I came over, and it opened up a whole new world, and I kind of found my tribe. It was pretty amazing. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that at all. So I'll talk about that in a minute. But right at that point, I just started, it dawned on me. I was being educated a little bit more, and it dawned on me that the things I was doing were definitely, if not security related, absolutely hacker related. And I decided to apply that into my career. So there was a lot more scripting all of a sudden. There's a lot more, automation, a lot more, trying to break things to figure out how we can provide that information to the people so they can fix them. And upon leaving, when I moved back to the States from Japan, I ended up working for a penetration testing company, and loved the work there. Managed all their vulnerability management services, their vulnerability scanner, and manage those services that they did for some of their enterprise clients, which was a lot of fun. I say that very facetiously. It was not fun. It was difficult work. It really is difficult work. But yeah, that's kind of how the evolution had. And then the evolution continued, and I started getting into policy and things like that. So it continued to the point where I became ended up doing consulting work and performing evaluations on overarching security programs or different aspects of those programs. And now I'm very focused on products. For Thermo Fisher Scientific, we have some amazing equipment out there, but it's not an area where security has ever been the focus before, and that's the way. It's that way for a lot of the organizations that do life sciences and medical equipment. They haven't really ever considered security to be a major component of their non-functional requirements. Well, the state of the world and the fact that people are learning this has forced that to happen. Yeah. So being on this team for this company is spectacular. I get to give advice. I get to provide, doing consulting for these individual products. And Thermo Fisher is a huge company. Yeah. We have a lot of products and some really cool ones that just needed to have some security applied to them. We do DNA sequencing with no security. You think about that in a forensics environment. Yeah, it's concerning. Yeah. So we're here, and we're doing our best to get to a point where everything is going to be in a much better state moving forward, because that's our goal. Thermo Fisher's motto is allowing our customers to make the world run cleaner, healthier, and safer. And I think that's great. They live their motto, and it's awesome.
That's a great motto to have, and then to actually, try to live by and everything.
To do it. That's the best part about it. Yeah. So that's kind of like, in a nutshell, my career progression there.
Your origin story, so to speak.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, and there's a lot of similarities between kind of what you just said and a lot of people that I've spoken to, or comments I've seen kind of working at Cybrary, people trying to get into the industry, is like, that's not how they started. Like you yourself, you said you were a psych major. I went to film school. It's not how you think things are going to go. And then, last time we talked, you said that, when you were really little, I think you were like 7, you said, you had like a toaster that broke and you just like had to take it apart and like see how it went together and everything.
Yeah. My grandmother got really mad at me about that. Those little red wires, it wasn't toasting my toast there. That was because of that little red wire. So I had to figure out why. Yeah. And I broke it. I was 7.
Yeah, I did the same thing when I was little. I think one of my neighbors was throwing out like a computer monitor or something like that, and I just slowly just took it apart just to kind of see what was inside. And my mom was real upset as there were screws and stuff all over our garage, but I just kind of wanted to see what made it work. And it was like, I don't know. I don't remember what year it was, but it was like when one of the backgrounds you could get on whichever version of Windows was out was like the inside of a computer. And like, I thought it was like the coolest thing. So I thought I could recreate it in my garage, which didn't work at all.
Good try though. Good try.
Yeah. My like 8-year-old brain was like, that's totally how all this works.
Yeah, absolutely. See the picture? It's a real thing.
Yeah. But it's kind of those little things. It's like what interests you, and like, the industry's so big. There's so many different offshoots, and like, it's not like there's like, I like tech, so this is exactly what the pathway is. It's like there's hundreds of pathways. There's thousands probably now. It's just getting bigger. Yeah, it's just getting bigger. And kind of like you said, going to DEF CON the first time, it's like you kind of found your tribe. Like I found the people and kind of what I find interesting and what I kind of want to do. And then you can just slowly from there figure out, where you want to go or where you want to take it, really.
Right. And I mean, it really is a matter of exposure too, right? I mean, you're not, a lot of things that are out there in the security industry. When I started, I wasn't even aware they were a thing, and then it's evolved so much where it's almost like if you look at a mind map or something, it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And there's so many cool little niches that you could get involved with. And nobody should ever beat themselves up for not knowing all the niches, because it's vast. It's a vast industry.
It's vast. There's always new things being invented and created. And there's a whole new job role now that's coming up. I mean, it happens to me constantly when we're creating new courses and stuff like that. We'll have new instructors come on teaching X, Y, or Z. And I'm reading it and I'm like, I had no idea this was a thing.
Yeah,
like,
what's this thing? I need to learn about this thing now.
What are you teaching? Huh? It's like, do students know this exists? Like, is somebody going to take your courses? I've never heard of this. And they're like, oh no, it's super popular. And then you look online and you're like, oh, how did I miss this?
But it's
there's
crazy.
There's hundreds of those things that you're just going to miss.
Right.
Well, talking about, we touched on DEF CON and how that, you said you kind of found your tribe. And we spoke before about kind of when you first went to those conferences, and kind of the same thing happened to me. The first one that I went to is I kind of went to the one talk I wanted to see, and then I went back to my room, and that was it.
Yeah. DEF CON back in the day, it was, well, it still is. It's a pretty crazy environment, right? I mean, there's a lot going on. There's so many different kinds of people, which is awesome. I find it to be very inclusive, and very accepting of all the different types of folks that are out there. And then you go and you see everybody together, and there shenanigans happening all over the place. Yeah. And I was not the shenanigan appreciator when I first started going. It intimidated me a lot. I also had a lot of social anxiety that I managed to hack my brain into no longer having. And how I did that, so I would go, like you said, I go to talks and then I go back to my room. I didn't go to the parties. Yeah. I didn't go watch people throw in the pool. I just certainly didn't get in the pool. Yeah, no. Not a chance. But I go hide out. And I realize is a part of my career progression. Like, I can speak one-on-one with the person, but when I would have to present to a large room or present, report findings to people, if it was a large group of people, I was very anxious there. And I realized a lot of that stemmed not just from individual social anxiety, but just fear of being in crowds. Yeah. So I wanted to get myself in a position where I could move forward and get out of that bucket. I wanted to hack my brain. So what I ended up doing is I had the opportunity, I think it was at BSides Austin. It might have been the second BSides in Austin. So the BSides event had just kicked off in Vegas the previous year. I missed the first one, but the second one I went to, and it was a lot of fun, a lot less intense than the DEF CON vibe, which was necessary. So I was like, hey, I'd like to be involved with this. So I heard of one. I was living in San Antonio in Texas at the time. Woo! And I heard of
where
this
I'm from.
B-side.
Shout out.
Right on. Okay. I just moved from there. I was there for 12 years. But I left, I went to Austin, had a B-Sides event, and I was all excited about it. So I went up there and I realized I'm in the same position. I don't know anybody here. I don't know. So I figured, okay, well, let me just say, hey, how can I help? I want to help? How can I help? And there was an awesome person running registration, or was registration check-in, and she was sitting there folding T-shirts, and the organizer, Michael Goff, said, hey, you want to help? Go talk to her. Go talk to Michelle. I'm like, all right. So I ended up there, and I'm folding T-shirts, and then I'm checking people in, and I'm talking one-on-one still with every person who's coming in the door, and at a very, very minuscule level, building some relationships. I mean, I don't remember any of these people's names, nothing like that, but I've already communicated with you. I've done something that you need, and you've talked to me as a human being, and not, there's been communication happening there. Yeah. So that helped. It made me feel a little bit more at ease. And once again, that's when that feeling of the tribe really hit home, is that I was able to communicate with each of these people, and seeing 4 or 5 of them in a group, not so bad anymore. Seeing 10 of them in a group, not so bad anymore. Yeah. Was I going to speak in front of that group? Probably not for a little while, but but it was progress, right? So that's how I started getting involved with the BSides events. And I truly believed in what they were doing. They're trying to bring education to the masses for, at that time, no cost. Yeah. And that was important to me. So that's how it all started. And it's done nothing but grow since then.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a great thing. I mean, kind of like you were saying, I mean, when you first start going to conferences or first even get into kind of the industry, there does seem to be like a lot that you don't know, and kind of getting comfortable with it. And there's just like, I'm sure every other industry, there's a lot of weird inside joke type things, or just weird things that you don't understand yet that you slowly kind of learn over time, but like it's kind of that initial hurdle of like, I have no idea what anybody's talking about.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, unless you're talking about something that I'm specifically interested, because of the vast arena of topics that get discussed at the conferences, I'm only going to go to maybe 3 talks.
Oh yeah.
In the course of like 2 days, because that's I'll try to get educated in other areas, but if I'm not even aware what they mean, then will I sit in on a talk? Probably not.
No.
So yeah, it's just a thing. But
yeah. So, okay. So moving from, BSides Austin, you said that's kind of where you started getting your feet wet. I mean, how did you go on did you just keep working with BSides and their different events, or like how did you get to, BSides Vegas?
So luckily for me, Dayami, Michelle, woohoo, shout out for her. She was the person I interacted with at BSides Austin. Okay. She had also been president of the first BSides in Las Vegas, as well as the second one. I hadn't met her there because I was still kind of, in my shell. But when we worked together in Austin, she's all like, hey, you want to come and work with me in Vegas at BSides Vegas? I said, I'd love to come and work with you at BSides Vegas. So we ended up running the registration table there together for 3 years, I think, from that point on. And so I ended up working in Vegas, working as the second in registration. The first 2 years we did it, we were at the Artisan Hotel, which is a less than glorious establishment.
Does it have a lot of paintings and mirrors?
Art,
let's say
yes.
Art on what's super weird is I have actually been there for an event, and I heard a lot of weird stories from the staff that works there. So
it's a trip. It's definitely a trip. Yeah,
if you're in Vegas, it's worth just going to see.
Well, they've revamped it, and I don't know if it still has all the cool, funky art on the ceilings, on the walls. It's just I
was there last August. When I was there for Black Hat. I was there very recently. Yes.
Okay, cool. So that's cool to know. Good. I'm glad. Glad it hasn't lost its charm.
Oh no. Yeah.
So when we're running registration there, we're outside for 2 days straight in the heat, in the Vegas heat in July and August. They had a tarp up for us the second day. The first day they did not. We were just basically getting fried. I think it was halfway through the first day of that third year. But yeah, we were outside the whole day. People were running. We had great help. Everybody's running, bringing us water constantly because we can't leave. Yeah. Even when it was time to eat, we had to. It was so hot, nobody wanted to eat or anything. So it's just like, all right, tag team. It was great. But it was great. So then we did that for the first 2 years. Thank goodness that BSides Las Vegas moved. But at the same time, while that is going on, I'm just kind of running as a second. I wasn't running registration there. I was just helping out pretty much the day of.
Yeah.
Which was still a lot of fun. And I did meet some amazing people there. The staff of BSides, there's some really cool folks there that have been on staff for BSides and that are currently on staff for BSides. And those people have done the churn. The churn has happened there. Those people are constantly revolving out. But while that was happening on that side, I also was getting pressure, I'll call it, from the Texas community to run BSides San Antonio. So in 2013, I put together the first BSides San Antonio, and I ran it for 3 years pretty much by myself, just because I'm not good at delegating. But once again, it was getting me out of my shell. Now I'm the organizer, so people come to me to talk to me.
Yep.
Instead of me having to reach out and try to make connections that way.
Mm-hmm.
It was the best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
It was glorious. I mean, not only did I bring an event to a community that really needed something from that perspective, I feel, but I started that, and then when I handed it off, it was horrible. It's like handing your baby away. Yeah. I handed it off to somebody to take care of it for me and make it, continue to let it grow. And the person I handed off to, Sciatic Nerd, it's glorious. It's beautiful. Yeah. You go there now, it's huge. It's got multiple tracks. It's great. I love what he did with the event. So that happened there. And at the same time, I'm running BSides Las Vegas, helping do the registration for BSides Las Vegas.
Yeah.
When Michelle stepped down, I don't remember which year it was, but then all of a sudden, boom, you're in charge of registration. Well, this is the same time where we've moved to the Tuscany Hotel and Casino, and we went from a 700-person event to what ended up being now is a 3,000 person event.
Wow.
So yeah, and if you've ever been to BSides Las Vegas, we have the most ridiculous number of different kinds of badges. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But managing it with the sponsorship coordinator and all the other different teams that we're working with, internally registering everybody from the volunteers and the security staff, the safety ops staff. It's blossomed. It's once again blown up.
Oh yeah.
And it's really fun to be a part of it. It's a great thing to do. And I did that from, I think it was 5 years I ran registration there. Yeah, I think it was 5 years. Had great help from great staff and was happy to be able to pass that torch. Literally, I had a 3D printed torch given, and I literally handed it to my successor at the registration desk last year. And not involved this year. It's really hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, starting off when it's so small and young, and then just kind of watching it grow. And now, there's, 3-4 times as many attendees and stuff. And while at the same time, kickstarting other ones around the country. Yeah. I mean, I couldn't imagine doing something that from the ground floor and then being like, well, here, like, now it's your turn, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now, are all the BSides like affiliated at all? Like, do you guys kind of speak about what, this is what we're doing, or we're all going to do this year kind of thing?
Well, we do to a certain degree. I mean, the security BSides wiki page is managed and ran by Jack Daniels, who's one of the we'll call him the founding father. At this point, he's been doing this since the beginning, so, but the set of guidelines that are provided by security BSides, the overarching, we call it the Mothership.
Yeah.
They're very light. I think there's 4 rules. You don't sell out your list. You don't sell out your attendee or your participant list. You don't, it's going to be free or close to it. You're not going to have, big charges for the people who want to participate. The majority of your money should come in from sponsorships. You have an open CFP. You can have 1 or 2, invited talks, say for your keynote, if you have a keynote or your closer. But otherwise, everything should be going through an open CFP. And you follow a don't be a jerk kind of motto far as you're trying to think of a politically correct way to say that.
Like the golden rule,
the golden rule, right? Yeah. I mean, it's very lightweight as far as the requirements put down from the Mothership to be a BSides event. And you have to be in contact. You have to be in contact with the Mothership so they can post the information on the security BSides site, because that's how things get, that's how we track what's going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, that happens. There's a Slack that we have set up there. It's not super active because people are doing their own thing.
Yeah.
We have a mailing list, but a lot of the communication between between organizers happens at BSides events because we tend to attend each other's events. I also just recently, I moved to San Diego area last May, and within a month and a half of being here, I are offered to help organize their San Diego BSides, which we just had on March 7th. I think we were the last BSides to take place before
quarantine. Yeah.
So I don't know. There were we were actually number 604 of the BSides events. So that's how many BSides events globally that have taken place.
604. Have you ever been to any ones out of the country?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I was just wondering how, like, if it's different at all, if it's just like, it's exactly the same. Just
that's what the coolest thing is about these events, because there's so little oversight. I shouldn't say so little oversight, but just there's not involvement by the Mothership. Those very light, requirements are there, but every BSides is different. Every BSides has its own vibe, and it's really cool. I mean, even when I was in Texas, I was on the board of directors for BSides Texas, because we were kind of being we did state sponsorship, so people could sponsor once and all the events would get money out of it, which was great. But you go to Dallas, totally different vibe than Austin, totally different vibe from San Antonio. I mean, it kind of does just embrace the vibe of the city it's in.
Yeah.
It's really neat.
Yeah. And I could see that. I mean, being from Texas, like I definitely understand the difference in all those cities, but like if you were new to it or something, or maybe that was your first event and you're from that city, like it would make it a little bit easier for you to kind of get involved and be in it. Like, it's just a little bit more familiar flavor, around, who's there and who's, talking, what they're talking about and stuff like that. So yeah, that's really great to know that it's not so defined, like it has to be like this or this or this.
No,
they're all kind of
we're not going to look
and,
like a Sands event. We're not going to look like
Yeah.
an well, although RSA is its own monster, but
yeah,
we're not going to look like we're definitely not cookie cutter. That's for certain. I mean,
yeah, and that's great to hear. And I think that kind of, it goes back to those kind of 4 rules that you were saying. It's like, these are the things, but you kind of make it your own type thing, which is great and probably helps people get involved a little bit more.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, that was one of the things that got me out of my shell, got me motivated, got me speaking to people, made me became more and more comfortable speaking publicly to large groups.
Mm-hmm.
I still can't, for whatever reason, my voice always cracks when I do an introduction of myself. It's the weirdest thing. You'd think my name would be fine, but no, that's when I get all, I can't speak. It's stupid.
The amount of times I've had to redo an intro to a podcast because my voice is cracked or I've said my name wrong or something.
What is the deal? It's the weirdest thing. Get me into my topic and I'm usually really fine, but man, just initially, it's so weird. But yeah, but it's been because of those events that I've been able to do that and start speaking at events on things that matter to me, which is nice. I've briefed chiefs of staff before in the military when I worked for the DoD, living in San Antonio. That was impressive to me. I was like, hey, I made those guys laugh. That's awesome. So that's when I knew. I was like, all right, this has definitely done me some good. So that was that.
That's great. So I mean, based on your experience, do you have any recommendations for people now, like going to events or who want to get involved? Is there like a sign up or something for BSides where they can go if they want to help with an event or something like that?
There's not one global one, once again, because every one of the events is individually, they're all individually and regionally run. But keep an eye out in your area for events. Now, I'm hoping right now that things will settle down. There may be future opportunities to get involved in different ways. But once things hopefully settle down from where we're at right now as the world, we may be able to get back to what we consider normal, or maybe we're defining a whole new normal right now, right? We don't know. But finding different ways to get involved might be a benefit. But I would absolutely keep an eye on Twitter. That's where BSides started. It started with a conversation going across Twitter. So that's something that people aren't really, I don't do Twitter. Well, check it out. Check it out. It's not going to hurt you.
Yeah, I would recommend that too. I never used Twitter at all. Like I knew what it was. I just, I'm not like a huge social media person anyway. And our mutual friend, Liz Wharton, was like, no, you definitely need to get on Twitter. It'll make it way easier to contact people and have conversations and meet people and stuff. And
Absolutely.
I would completely agree after having used it for, a couple months now. That is how you and me communicated and how we kind of set all of this up. Most people don't just give out their phone numbers and stuff anymore.
Right.
Yeah, hit me up on Twitter. Like you can find, you can see what people have been talking about. It is a great resource that, just kind of came up out of nowhere. It's weird.
Right. Yeah, it kind of was a migration. I guess everybody got off of IRC. Well, not everybody got off. There's still a lot of IRC happening, but in the hacker and the InfoSec community initially, way back when, it was all IRC all the time. And then when Twitter came up, it was just, I don't know. I think it just evolved to Twitter somehow or another. I'm just very grateful that it didn't evolve to Facebook because I don't do Facebook.
Yeah. Nope.
And I don't know how to do Facebook. My daughter sends me links. Oh my gosh, check out this guy's wall. What the heck are you talking about? I don't even know what you're saying. These words make nothing to me. So yeah, Twitter is quick, it's easy, and there are a couple of key accounts that I would strongly recommend people follow, and then can branch out from there if they want to make sure that they're not getting too much politics and things like that. Don't follow those accounts. Pretty simple.
Yeah, it's really easy to kind of jump around. There's so many interesting people and you'll random and I don't know how Twitter recommends what you see or what it sends you notifications and stuff on. It's usually not people that I follow, but it's like, oh, well, this is actually kind of interesting. I didn't know. And it'll be maybe somebody I followed, a comment they put somewhere and you kind of get linked that way. But
oh yeah. It can be a lot of fun. There's a lot of there's a lot of great people, and you can start building relationships there. I mean, I met some, when you finally get to meet, and if the conference, from the conference circuit as well, you get to meet the people you've talked to on Twitter who have neat ideas, things that interest you, and to be able to connect with them in real life or in meet space is a lot of fun too. That's how I met one of my closest friends, is on Twitter. And that was, to me, is amazing that we now have this amazing relationship. We're buds, and that's awesome to me.
Yeah, I mean, I did it kind of backwards. I met a bunch of people at ShmooCon when I was there with you, and then now I talk to them on Twitter, and we interact.
And you're continuing the conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'll see you at the next event or something. So it's great.
So, that's one way to go ahead and get involved. Just there's other community geared organizations in various environments, a lot of DEF CON meetup groups, which are awesome. Those are spectacular. And they're very regional. I know here we have one in San Diego. They're all on almost any community, and you can find those by going to the DEF CON forums pages.
Okay.
They have a whole DEF CON community area in the forums. But yeah, those are great places to meet people, to start networking and talking about what things that interest you. Bring those things to the table there. They love hearing people. They want to hear talks by everybody in the community, because your interests are absolutely not going to be mine, right? In San Diego, we have a person who is just obsessed with payphones and phone freaking. We had one of their payphones at the BSides event in San Diego, but he brings them to the DEF CON meetups, and we just play with them. It's fun. I mean, I would never thought about looking at payphones, and I'm like, can I put a payphone in my house? That would be really cool. I'm thinking, wow, it would go really well right there on my wall, But so that's something you'd never think of, but getting exposed to stuff, hardware hacking, things like that, things that you may not have any experience with, lock picking. That's so much fun. I love lock picking. I'm not very good at it, but I love doing it.
Yeah, that's something I've noticed, that the more recent cons and stuff that I'm doing, that lockpicking is a huge thing that everyone's
it's huge.
Kind of starting to get into, or has been into, or can tell you years. This is my technique, or this is what I do, or something, which is really just something you wouldn't have thought about. But it's really prevalent.
Some of the organizations that are really prevalent in the conference space, they do amazing training, and they'll do the training right there on the floor in the lockpicking villages, which is spectacular. It's a great opportunity to learn things. At my last company event, we had in December, we had an all hands meeting, and in conjunction with our holiday party. But we had a workshop day where we're soldering little Santa ornaments, and people brought their kids in, and the kids are soldering. And then on the other table, we have somebody else doing lock picking, and showing people how to pick locks. And this is at my Thermo Fisher scientific company event, which was great. I mean, it was so much fun. So bringing those skills out to people in different ways is really important. So find those opportunities, man. Go check them out. Use Meetup. When we can start meeting up again, use meetup.com. There are so many things happening in your neighborhood, as well as other organizations. On the more corporate side of things, we've got ISSA, you've got ISACA. From an auditing and a compliance perspective, those are a couple of good organizations to get involved with if you're interested in that, or if nothing else, to just network. And not everybody there is wearing, the three-piece suit. They're there to meet new people and find new skill sets.
Yeah, you're going to see a bunch of people in cargo shorts or kilts or something. There's a little bit of everybody.
Maybe not an ISACA event so much.
Yeah, maybe not ISACA. Yeah, I guess I'm thinking more, like RSA, Black Hat, DEF CON for
That's
sure.
Very different. That's very different. That's very different. But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of ways to get involved and help you find where your passion is, because like you're talking, I mean, the opportunities are huge. Where do you want to go?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different things there. What interests you is not going to be necessarily what interests somebody else, or, there's definitely specialization for everything. So just kind of take a look and see what you like.
And if you find that you have strong opinions about something, put that together in a proposal for a paper and give a talk on it. Talk to people about it. I think it's a great way. I mean, sharing your knowledge, being an expert in what you do is so important. Yep. And there are mechanisms in place if you want to share that information, because it should, unless you want to be one of those people who holds everything tight. There are mechanisms in place to allow you to share that in a comfortable environment too. You can do podcasts. They have first time speaker tracks at some of the cons.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have a mentor help you walk through all this stuff. It's important. It's important to share that information, because otherwise we're all just working on our little tiny,
our own little thing, not sharing anything. It's just like,
my
this
island.
This is mine. Yep.
Yeah, can't do it. That doesn't work well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like that a little bit while we're all quarantined, but
yeah,
definitely
it does. That's a good point.
Share as much as you want. And maybe this is like a good time, because like now, I mean, a lot of things are going virtual. A lot of people are kind of kickstarting some virtual things, like getting people in. So, I mean, now might be the best time to try to, hop in and see what interests you and, what's out there.
Yeah, right. Maybe it's a lot easier talking to a large group of people if you can't see them, right?
Yeah, if I can turn my video off and it's just
just my screen
or something like
that.
Yeah,
or here's my slide deck. Yeah, here's my slide deck. There you go. That's it. It might be that's actually a really good point.
yeah, it's the best time for social distancing.
Yeah, there you go. You do what you got to do.
Well, thank you, Cindy. I appreciate your time. We're kind of coming pretty close to a lot of time that I had with you. So I just wanted to say thank you for talking to me today and kind of talking about your history and then all the different events and everything. I highly recommend everybody kind of search for what interests you and, where you can find those things.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to ask for mentorship. That's fun. Don't be afraid to ask people to mentor you. That's important too.
Thank you for bringing that up. Because, I think that's something that a lot of new people are very wary about, but I don't think I've met somebody that would not want to mentor somebody on something.
Absolutely.
Like if they understand what they're doing, they'd be like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, very open and honest community of people who just want to help.
Yeah, exactly. We're a really cool, we are a pretty cool group of folks, man. We really are. I mean, all of us, it's pretty awesome. It's cool. It's cool to be on this team.
Yeah. We are a giant team. Yep.
Exactly. It's cool to be on this team. It's good.
So,
all right, cool. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Absolutely. It was great. Thank you very much. We'll definitely have you on again at some point. So thank you.
Great. All right. Bye. Thanks. Bye.